So let's go ahead and look at this. Alright, the focus of flipped teaching is different from other examples with technology because it's just a tool that allows a flexible communication between educators and students for differentiated instruction. That means that students who need to go slower can go slower, students who need to go faster can go faster, and then there's more time in the classroom for high-order thinking skills. Remember, though, that flipped teaching is a great example of how to use technology with intention. A lot of times we bring technology into the classroom just because it's a new technology. That's not good. That technology must have a good intention, good results, good usage, and I think Flipped Classroom is a great example of this. So let's take a look at differentiated instruction because I think Flipped Classroom works perfectly and hand with differentiated instruction. So we can see that the teacher plans the content the students are going to learn, but then the process, how are they going to learn this? Are they going to learn it through group activities or individually or as a whole class? And with Flipped Classroom, we'd be looking at individual students watching the videos, then coming together into groups or pairs and applying that knowledge, and then sometimes in whole class to review as a whole class things that need to be reviewed. And then of course the assessment of content is in the product, what the students are able to produce, and not just necessarily a summative evaluation. But again, all along the process are formative evaluations, and this can be done with Flipped Classroom. Flipped Classroom also falls right in with the Rigor Relevance framework. The Flipped Classroom, watching the videos at home, disseminates the knowledge, which is A or B. And then in the classroom, because of knowledge, the base knowledge has been learned at home through the videos, the classroom can then take advantage of the C and D squares. Flipped Classroom, again, perfect for blended learning. I don't believe in going all the way to one side or all the way to the other. A good mix of blended learning is great. This allows teachers to truly differentiate their instruction. Again, they can let those children who are ahead and bored move on, and those students who need extra time don't feel embarrassed and singled out in the classroom. So this is an always-on free teacher's aid, but it's never, ever meant to be a replacement for effective instruction. So let's take a look at how one professor approaches the Flipped Classroom concept. And I just loved what this professor did. I thought it was really great. And I think he has a good model set up here. So we're going to scroll down, and right here we see his best practices using the flipped model. So first off, he introduces a new skill or concept in the classroom. He doesn't introduce a new skill and concept through the video. He does that in the classroom itself, but he doesn't do it through lecture. He does it through open exploration. That means that students learn through trial and error and make their own explorations prior to being exposed to the theory behind the experiments. This is great. What a wonderful formative assessment. What a wonderful way to see where your students are, what their background knowledge is when you get them, before you introduce them to the theories. I think it's wonderful to be able to meet your students where they are instead of where you think they might be. Then, once students have watched the lecture, students are to complete 5 sentences about the lesson. This allows for students, when they do this immediate response to it, allows students to recall and synthesize information. Then, he also makes sure that he uses the same visual procedure every single time when explaining a concept. It allows students to become familiar with this process so that they can begin to predict and hypothesize as they watch. And I think this is important in any classroom, even if you're not doing a flipped classroom. Being consistent, using familiar processes, using the same procedure every time is a relief to students. Students crave the sameness. Students crave rules and organization and knowing what's going to happen next, and it helps them to think better, helps them to perform better in the classroom. So let's actually take a look at one of the videos that this professor has set up for his students, and we're just going to look at the first few minutes of how he approaches his classroom every single time.
Lecture of the year. Now, after you're watching this lecture, you should have had a chance in class to explore with these ideas, and then the point of this lecture is to fill in any gaps, give you a little bit more information, and then in class the next day we're going to play with these equations and really learn how to solve these problems. So this is our first one. So when you're doing a lecture, you want to follow along in your learning packet. You want to write everything that I write. For instance, in your notes, in your learning packet here, we're going to label this Lecture 1, and the title of Lecture 1 is Polarity. Okay, so you're going to write that. Now, the most important part of doing a lecture is doing the summary to the lecture. And you notice here, right below the video you're watching, you do have a summary box. And if you don't know how to do the summary, you can go here and click this button and look at an example of a summary. It needs to be 5 sentences, and this shows you exactly how to do it. If you want to get these lectures throughout the year in iTunes, you can click here. Just know that if you get it in iTunes, meaning you're going to subscribe to a podcast, you need to keep plugging your iPhone in and updating it to get the videos, or your iPod, etc., or even directly on your computer if you have iTunes. But you need to go back and fill out the summary. This is the way that I give you that 5 points that you get for each video. I do not recommend you watching the video all the way through, taking notes, and doing the summary. What I recommend is you watch the video. Once a point comes up, something you understood or didn't understand, press pause, fill out the summary. So go through the video in parts, rewinding when you need to, filling it out as you go along. That way when...
And I think this is so important, what he just said. Don't watch the video all the way through and then try to write your summary. But pause it as you watch it. When you have a question, pause. Write down what the question is. And then the next day in class, they will discuss what the questions were and the points that were brought up during the video. And so you do get feedback that way as well. Alright, so the flipped classroom concept. Let's take a look at how a flipped classroom model actually looks. So we start off with some hands-on activities, games, and experiments so that we can see students' background knowledge. This is for in-class setting, blended course, face-to-face instruction time. Then we move into the video lectures. This is done during the students' own time, when they can listen to music, have the lighting the way they want, sit in a beanbag if they like, and this allows for differentiated learning. And also reflecting on what you've done, like the summary that we just saw. You can do blog summaries. Kids can make their own vodcast or podcast. And again, this is time for them to reflect on what they've learned. And then applying what they've learned, demonstration and application of what they've learned. And this is great in a face-to-face group setting within the classroom. And so the educators can guide the learner with their projects and work with an audience of their peers and mentors to provide motivation and feedback. I love this concept because it allows students to read, write, and talk, which are the basic fundamentals of a great education. One thing you might want to go back and look at, there was this fantastic webinar that took place not too long ago where a discussion took place about the flipped classroom concept with John Bergman, Aaron Sams, and many others that we know.
This topic, we're going to talk about the general concept of flipping classrooms, and also I imagine at some point we're going to edge over and talk at least a little bit about the Khan Academy, which seems to be many people's lens on the concept of the flipped classroom. Okay, so As you can see, we got a bunch of people who are ready to talk. Who would like to take a stab at defining what we're talking about when we talk about the flipped classroom? What does that mean to you?
All right, so you can see this is a webinar about the flipped classroom. Eventually, this number gets up to over 100 here of people who participated. And so it's really neat because not only can you listen to the speakers, some, like I said, we know, like Jonathan Bergman, and there's Aaron Sams, but then we can also read the back channeling that's going on as well. And it's just a great conversation about the flipped classroom. So definitely, if you want to get some more in-depth information about the flipped classroom, I would definitely advise you to listen to this webinar. Okay, at my school we have Moodle, which is a learning management system. Others may have Blackboard or Desire to Learn, but even if you don't have a learning management system, you can still put videos and use the flipped classroom concept through your blog, your school blog, or your school website. And it just works seamlessly with that and is just a great distributor of that information. Now, if you do want to make your own flip videos for your classroom, Jing is a free download that allows you to screen capture your computer like what we're doing now, except that it only limits you to 5 minutes at a time. But that's fine, because your videos shouldn't be much longer than 5 minutes anyway in a flipped classroom. If you have a smartboard, don't forget that your smartboard does have a record button on it, and you can record the lessons that you do on your smartboard. So make sure to take advantage of that and use that. And then also Camtasia Studios, which is pricey, but is well worth it for the bells and whistles that it has if you really plan on delving into using the flipped classroom. So those are just a few. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me at ndrobertson@auburnschools.org or follow me at Nikki D. Robertson on Twitter. I'm usually on there almost every single day. Thank you, and I hope that this has provided you some useful information and that you will think about maybe incorporating the flipped classroom into at least 1 or 2 of your lessons just to see how you like it and how your students adapt to it. Thank you.